Neil deGrasse Tyson, people come to you to try and understand the universe.
Yes.
What is the most pressing question people are asking you right now about the universe?
Are we alone in the universe? And that's influenced by pop culture. I'll give you an example. When the movie Ghost came out, polls showed that more people believed in ghosts after that movie than before the movie. So pop culture is a huge force of influence on our thoughts and feelings and attitudes and what we believe is or is not true. So when you say, what is the most pressing question? Are we alone in the universe? Then they say, have we been visited? And how will it all end? That's another one. Usually God shows up in there. Is there God? There's an assumption. I think it's a naive assumption, but an interesting one nonetheless, that people who study the universe might stumble upon God because we're told, or at least in our artwork, gods live in the sky. So people then study the sky. When the Apollo astronauts came back, people said, did you see God? Did you see heaven?
What is the essence of why people are so curious about these subjects?
My best speculation, and this is a wild speculation, and my ego is not based on whether this is true, but it's fascinating for me to think about the fact we are completely comfortable sleeping on our backs. Ask yourself, how many other animals do that at all? Does a beetle say, I'm going to turn over and go on my back and go to sleep? Do spiders just go on their back? Think about it. That's quite vulnerable. You're asleep and your belly is exposed, right? We sleep at night, typically. Okay. If you're outdoors, asleep on your back at night and you wake up, what's the first thing you see? The universe, the sky. You'll see, comets and meteors and the moon and brighter stars, which we call planets eventually. And from night to night, wait a minute, the moon had one shape and now it's a different shape and it's a different part of the sky. And these lights are moving. And how could we not be curious? When in the middle of the night, you wake up and the universe presents itself to you. So I think that's sort of in our DNA, the curiosity about the night sky. I didn't make people interested in the universe. In fact, when I was a kid, my first encounter with the night sky was a planetarium, the Hayden Planetarium here in New York City. I said, wow, I want to study the universe. But the universe is so interesting. Everybody's going to want to study the universe. And there'll be no room for me. And as I got older, I realized there are other things people are interested in. Not everybody wants to study the universe professionally. However, whatever you choose as a profession, it doesn't change the fact that somewhere in you, you're going to look up and say, what does that replace in the universe?
I thought you were going to say, when you talked about sleeping on their backs, that we are now so comfortable being the sort of apex predator that we're able to sleep on our backs. And actually, we're so interested in aliens because it's the only thing that would threaten our place as being able to sleep on our backs as the apex predator.
Oh yeah, I don't know that ancient people were dreaming up aliens. It's just the night sky itself. Well, okay, let's not use the term alien. Let's just use the term gods. Where are most people's gods? They're in the sky.
Yeah.
Even in ancient Greece, they're Mount Olympus, not in the sky, but they're in high places. If you look at posters with religious sayings on them, typically it's a sunbeams coming through clouds and a beautiful landscape. You're looking at the sky. And by the way, what are our images of deity? Many of them could pass for aliens. Like the Gorgons, for example. Look at Medusa. Snakes for hair Medusa. That's as alien as anything you would ever conjure. What else? Images of Jesus. He's floating. He's got beams coming out of him. If he's not floating, he's walking on water. These are things that go beyond anything that's earthly. So now people imagine aliens with all these same powers and weirdnesses. So I don't know that alien is something specific that's in our DNA to think about, but to imagine things beyond ourselves is. And so I would lump them together in that respect.
One of the things that made me, I guess, more curious about aliens and meaning and purpose and gods and all these things was watching Cosmos, which was your series around the universe, and specifically it was
And Carl Sagan did it first.
Carl Sagan. I
Not
watched
my
both.
series.
Well, I watched both.
A series I happen to host. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they both had the same impact on me, which was they made me feel insignificant in the grand scheme of the cosmos. I think when you realize how insignificant we are, or small we are, should I say, in this grand scheme of even this Milky Way galaxy that's on the table in front of us, the delta in the size of me and my world versus all of this is mystery. And I almost feel called to fill it with something. Is it Parkinson's law? You fill the space provided. It's the same thing with the universe. Just how small are we, Neil, in the grand scheme of the universe?
Well, if you don't think in terms of metric size, how big are you? Are you this big, this big, this big? If you think in terms of powers of 10.
Okay.
So the thing's 10 times bigger than us, 10 times bigger than that, 10 times bigger than that. You just keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We're small compared with the universe, but we're huge compared with atoms and molecules. Now, instead of going 10 times bigger, go 10 times smaller. 1/10 to be precise. What's 1/10 our size? Well, that's this big. 1/10 that is that big. 1/10 that. You keep going down, you enter the realm of molecules and then atoms and then particles. So there are things much smaller than we are. In fact, I addressed some of that in, I wrote an alien book recently, Take Me to Your Leader. There's a lot in there about changing your perspective on what you might expect life forms to be like out there. So you can ask the question, are the life forms the size of a galaxy? Or are the life forms the size of atoms? Are we just biased by what our senses can drink in from our own size scale? And that's an interesting fact. And so you know who'd feel small if you were a life form the size of molecules. Okay? Then you're feeling small. There's not much smaller than you if you're molecular size life. Now, we don't know how you would make that, because life, by our own understandings and definitions, it has a metabolism. There's things that happen. You ask a biologist what is life, they'll give you a list of criteria, which are hard, if not impossible, to be fulfilled by life that's extremely small. And they still debate whether viruses are alive, right, based on some criteria. But some had speculated that life could be the size of nucleons. So a nucleon is the size of the particles in the nucleus of an atom. Things happen very quickly on that scale. So they might wonder, how is it that we live so slowly? So inverting your expectations is a time-honored exercise in keeping you honest, keeping your ego in check.
You can go the other way, right? This whole universe could be something in another life form's gut microbiome.
Yeah, okay. So that was briefly addressed in the film Men in Black. Okay. What I can say is the laws of physics manifest differently on different scales. So you can't just scale everything up, which is why you don't have human-sized insects. Their legs would break under their own weight. It's why heavy animals have thick, chunky legs. It's why if you fell off the roof, you're dead, but an ant can just land and keep walking. Okay? Forces don't interact in the same way depending on your scale. One of my favorite scenes in the film A Bug's Life, which I think that was a Pixar film. Pixar, they must have a room full of scientists working for them. There's a mosquito at a bar. So the mosquito orders a drink. So what drink does he order?
A mojito? I don't know.
A Bloody Mary. Of course. It's okay. How big is a mosquito? It's this big. And it's a bar. It's like an insect bar. And so the bartender brings over the Bloody Mary and just puts a blob of the liquid in front of it. It's not in a glass, not in a jug. It's just, there it is. Because surface tension is something that manifests in ways that insects care about greatly, and we don't, unless you're waxing your car, and then this water gets on it and it beads up. Okay? Surface tension is a property of liquids, where the outer surface, the molecules are a little more tightly gathered because they don't have forces above them to pull them into the solution that is the liquid. So transitioning from the liquid itself into air creates a kind of a film, all right? And it holds the liquid in place. Unless there's too much liquid, then gravity becomes stronger than the surface tension.
And
it just flies. Exactly. But below a certain amount, the surface tension is greater than the gravity. And it beads up. So they knew this in that movie. And I thought that was brilliant. My only point of this is to communicate that you can't just scale things up and expect everything to be happening in exactly the same way. But I want to get back to your point when you said you felt small after you saw Cosmos. You only felt small because you went in there with an ego that was unjustifiably too large to begin with.
Probably.
I'm accusing you of that.
Probably. Yeah.
However, I go in there with no such ego. Okay? And I look up at the stars. And I learn from modern astrophysics that the elements in our body were forged in stars that exploded, the elements, the oxygen, the carbon, the nitrogen, the iron that courses through our blood, was forged in stars that at the end of their lives exploded, scattering that enrichment into the galaxy, out of which the next generations of stars and planets are formed. Early in the universe, we didn't have these ingredients. We could not exist as in our current form. So, when I look, I don't feel small. I feel large. Because I'm connected to the cosmos, chemically. And that connectivity, let's make it a little more poetic. Not only are we alive in this universe, the universe is alive within us. And that fact borders on the spiritual. There's an astrophysical fact that gives you a pathway of relevance to the universe. We are part of this great unfolding cosmic story. The fact that we are made of elements forged in the stars. Next time you go out and look up, I want you to feel large, not small. Because we are not only made of what stars have produced, we are solar powered. What do I mean by that? Okay, if you're omnivorous, maybe you had a steak last night, okay, that you're getting calories from the food you eat. And the steak was once a cow, okay. What did the cow eat? Cow ate plants. What do plants eat? Well, they don't eat. They just sit there and receive sunlight. So a cow, I said this once on the internet and freaked people out. I should not shy away from speaking truth just because it freaks you out. A cow is a machine that we invented, because cows don't exist in the wild. It's domesticated. A cow is a machine that we invented to turn grass into steak. So, because at the end of that chain is grass that has photosynthesis, essentially 100% of our caloric value is traceable to stars, specifically the sun. So, you are solar powered and the universe is alive within you. So don't ever sit across from me again and say, I feel small in the universe. Sorry, you have a lower pitched voice than that. I feel small in the universe.
It's strange, isn't it? This idea of like significance as a concept, like trying to understand one's significance. And I think religion often gives us a sense of significance.
Well, it does. Yes, of course. Hence its value to people and its persistence throughout time and across cultures.
Has your view of religion not changed through all that you've learned about the universe in any way since you were this? I've got this photos of you as a young man.
What's that? Oh, you did some homework there? What'd you do?
I've got so many photos. I mean, I've got this one here of you and you. I mean, this one's a fascinating. I love that one.
Okay.
My hair was like this when I was that age.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. So this one was my first telescope, and that's my father helping me put it together.
If I think about this young man here and what he thought about religion, are you more religious, less religious? If so, why?
So, by the time I was 8, nothing was making sense. that people were telling me about religion. What I didn't know is that belief systems don't have to make sense. That's why they're belief systems. If they were made complete sense, it would just be objectively true. If it's a belief system, then it's beyond critical analysis. It's just a belief system, okay? So when I say beyond critical analysis, what I mean is if something in your belief system lends itself to be tested, we can test it. And if what we test shows that what you believe is false, are you going to stop believing? Generally not, because it's a belief system, okay? Most people want to engage you, ultimately, with some kind of spiritual, religious conversation, I have found, especially given my access to the universe. And in the early days, there were easy answers. It was like, this is religion, go ahead, I'm doing science here. Then I thought, I owe people who are religious a more informed and nuanced engagement because of the power and force that religion has exercised on the history of the world. It's not just cultural, it's political, it's economic, So I started reading religious tracts. And now, when I'm engaged in a conversation, I have a full-up conversation with people on their beliefs, whatever intersection, if any, with the objective universe, and what those beliefs do for the person who holds them. And there are many places on the internet that claim me as an atheist. And it's like I've never embraced that title.
So you're not an atheist?
The only ist I am is a scientist, okay? Let's start there. Now, titles are lazy. I'll tell you why. Once you hand a title to someone, that gives you license to not have to think anymore about who and what that person is regarding that subject. And that has never ended well, in my experience. So, first, it's odd that such a word as atheist exists at all. Think about it. It's a word that says what you're not. Is there a word for non-golfers? Is there a word for ask yourself, how many things do we have words for which you're not? Very few. And so this exercise of saying you're either with us or you're against us, and if you're against us, I have this word for you that says you're not this. Like I said, that never ends well. It ends in war and bloodshed, typically. Leading atheists today who write books on this, okay? Richard Dawkins is among them. He wrote a book called The God Delusion. That's fighting words if there ever was one. These are people who reject God, reject its influence on politics and society and lives, and would just as soon see a world without it. I'm not that guy. I have behavior that would be rejected by any modern atheist thinker. So what am I? We pick the next word, would be agnostic, okay?
Okay, so let's pick that next word, which I also relate to. I would consider myself to be agnostic as well.
Agnostic, sure.
I just don't know. What's your leading view of where all of this stuff came from?
It's consistent with observations and experiment. The Big Bang.
The Big Bang.
Oh, it is so thoroughly supported, as fantastical as it is.